this. Now, here I would like to inform that we are going to start our first session, and we have our expert of this first session. So, before calling our expert, let me give a brief introduction about our experts. So, today's our expert is Dr. Professor K. Srinivas Reddy from IIT Madras, Chennai. Dr. K. Srinivas Reddy obtained his PhD from Indian Institute of Technology in Energy Studies in 1999. He then joined National Institute of Technology Warangal in June 1999, and after a brief service of about 4 years at NIT Warangal, he joined IIT Madras in April 2003 as an assistant professor. Presently, Dr. Reddy is a professor of mechanical engineering at IIT Madras, and he is also an honorary professor at University of Exeter, UK. He also served as an adjunct professor at CEERI, CSRI, Chennai during 2014 to 17. He has 8 patent applications and more than 252 publications, of which 136 papers in reputed international journals, including 5 review articles on solar energy system and energy storage. His co-authored book on sustainable energy and the environment, A Clean Technology Approach, published by Springer, and book chapters on solar energy systems are popular among energy and environment community. He has executed several research projects related to solar energy and environment funded by various national and international agencies such as DST, MNRE, AICT, RCUK, and lots, and there are many more. So now I would like to invite Professor K. Srinivas Reddy sir to give the lecture and to start this first session. So over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your kind introduction. At the outset, I thank the organizers for inviting me to give a talk on this FTP program on opportunities and challenges in solar energy collection, conversion, storage, and utilization. We give a talk. In fact, this is a very important FTP program because, as you know, that solar energy is one of the important sources of energy for the present day world. But it has a. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Voice is clear.
Okay. So the solar energy is an important source now for catering the needs of energy demand. And the solar energy has certain limitations, mainly intermittency and some extent reliability. So these intermittency and reliability and energy conversion is an important aspect. So therefore, this program addresses several opportunities and challenges in various aspects of solar energy conversion. In fact, one of the important factors, as the director mentioned, that the storage is an important aspect, and because the storage can improve substantial reliability and of course consistency of the source. So therefore, I think discussing solar energy storage is an important aspect, and there are a lot of technologies are being developed, and some of the technologies are now in use, and still, of course, they have to be made commercially viable so that they can be used extensively in order to improve the reliability of the solar energy conversion. So I will give 2 talks here, and the first talk is mainly on energy challenges and opportunities in solar energy conversion. And the second one is mainly on thermal energy storage for solar energy system. Second topic, what are the problems, issues, and how we can address these problems. What are the opportunities? Because a lot of youngsters have registered for this program. So these challenges and opportunities are very important for them. They should know the challenges, but also there are plenty of opportunities in this area. I will discuss some of these, how we have addressed. Thank you. Thank you so much. This, as I mentioned, that my first talk will be on challenges and opportunities in solar thermal energy conversion. I will discuss what are the different challenges, mainly in solar thermal energy conversion, in order to make it more reliable, viable, and of course feasible options. But there are still many opportunities to improve the performance, improve the reliability, improve the consistency, and so on. So we will discuss, and of course the technology development is a major challenge in this, as well as a lot of opportunities in technology developments, mainly indigenous technology development for I think that's more than enough. Okay, so I was discussing about these problems, and energy is being a most important problem. And as I mentioned, that the present energy scene is based on fossil fuels, coal, oil, gas. So this fossil fuels based energy scenario, if we deal with it in present form, obviously we cannot deal, because the energy problem cannot be dealt in isolation. It has to be with the environment. So therefore, the energy environment plays a major role, and the interaction between energy and environment are very important. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are hearing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So now, if you take this energy, if you look at the future thing, the first three are important: energy, water, and food. As we know that clean energy is an important aspect. Food, we have seen food is a major, because the population is growing rapidly. So and it's exponential growth in population. Then the required food is need to be produced in a most effective way. Again, the agriculture sector need to be strengthened. Now, apart from that, the water is another important thing. Water is, of course, most of the water bodies in India are polluted, and are even across the world also. So this water, potable water, is an important now. And if at all there is a unrest across the world, it could be for these three: food, water, and clean energy. But of course, for human survival, there's another important requirement, is the air. Somehow we are getting air free of cost. We are not spending any money, whereas we need to spend a lot of money on clean energy, food, and water. Though the air is free of cost, but it's not clean air. So because of this energy consumption and our human activities and industrial development, and of course increase in population, makes the environment conducive for the survival. So therefore, the air is we are getting free of cost, but unfortunately it's not a clean air. So therefore, there's a lot of potential to develop technology which make the environment sustainable, or cleaner, or green. So therefore, the energy can solve most of the problems. And the energy consumption is also rapidly growing day by day because of mainly three reasons. One is the standard of improvement in standard of living of people, and the second one is the massive industrialization. The third one is, of course, population is also growing rapidly. These three reasons are mainly responsible for increase in energy consumption, and it has been there. And
I have muted, sir. I have muted. You can continue.
Okay. So income energy includes solar and lunar energies. Mainly they are non-depletable. Electromagnetic, gravitational, particle energy from stars, planets, and the moon, and of course the potential energy of meteorites entering into the Earth's atmosphere are referred as a celestial energy. The energy which comes from the outer space. Capital energy is the energy that already exists on or in the Earth. Generally, this is in a chemical form and nuclear form, plus the geothermal energy. So the geothermal and atomic energy are referred as a capital energy. If you look at the reserves from the source, there are again 4 reserves. The energy reserves on the Earth can be divided into, are grouped into 4 categories. First one is renewable, which includes solar, wind, biomass, and ocean. The other one is fossil fuels, coal, oil, gas, and of course nuclear, whether it's fission-based or fusion-based, depending upon the conditions. Generally, coal, fossil fuels are responsible for pollution, whereas nuclear and renewable are more cleaner fuels sources. If you look at conversion, energy conversion system, which we call energy system hierarchy, it is transformed into equipment services. Mainly, you can see that energy sources, which includes both fossil fuels, oil, gas, coal, and renewables, biomass, as well as other renewables, solar, wind, and nuclear. And these are transformed into energy carriers, or secondary form of energy, and then subsequently used for various applications. These secondary form of fuel or energy carriers include most efficient form of energy, that is electricity, and liquid fuels. They are try to do it as early as possible. So this energy carriers and the equipment. So the sources is converted into energy carriers and subsequently utilized in equipment wherever that could be for mobility, like it can be surface or aviation or even sea transport, any transport, or buildings. Mainly building sector is also an important thing. If you look at what are the challenges, technological challenges for these, is no single technology or policy can do it for all. And there are different problems with regions-based, source-based, markets-based, reference-based, scale-up-based, technology-based, and of course time and infrastructure-based are important. There are several challenges that could be even either for vehicle or energy efficiency of the vehicle, biofuels or hydrogen fuel as a part of the mobility, or net zero energy buildings, because the building sector is also an important role for as far as the energy is concerned. So whether we go for industrial efficiency or CHP or any other thing, nuclear is another important aspect where 4th generation, 5th generation nuclear reactors are being developed for effective this thing. And again, pollution is a major problem. CO2 capture is a major issue. And CO2 sequestration is an important aspect. And advanced grids, because the transport, distribution and transmission is a major important aspect for high quality energy like electricity. So therefore, advanced grids play a major role. And biofuels and power generation is another important aspect. And of course, finally, the renewable energy technologies. So these are several challenges on these, and especially we are discussing the most important aspect is on renewable energy technology, mainly solar thermal technologies in this. If you look at global energy potential, you see that the fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas. Coal is the you see dark color, and it has a good potential. It is put it in the circle, followed by uranium and oil, gas, and wind, biomass, hydro, geothermal, wave, and tidal. This is if you can see relatively their potential, depending upon the size, you can see that size of the circle or sphere. And the yellow color is a much bigger one, which is solar energy. It has a good potential and plenty of potential on the earth. So therefore, if you look at the solar potential is about 23,000 terawatts, but the present world's energy consumption is only 16 terawatts. You can see that how many times we have solar energy potential. And if you look at the energy demand and prosperity, this is the Earth's photograph taken in the night time. And if you look at the Earth, it looks like this. Wherever it's highly illuminated, that means high energy demand and high energy prosperity. Wherever it's bright and it's energy, you can see some of these places. But there are some places where dark conditions also. Generally, when they are dark, we call them as energy. Wherever it's bright and illuminated, it's called energy demand and prosperity. Wherever it's dull and less illuminated, then they call energy poverty. So there are several countries under energy poverty, and including this region mainly, and especially these SAARC regions. So several millions of people are still inaccessible to the electricity, and several million people are still using the biomass as a basic primary energy source. And if you look at as a whole, about 1.6 billion people have no access to electricity, and 80% of them are in this region, Africa and South Asian countries. So therefore, the energy, there's a lot of potential for energy development, energy technology development, energy supply, and so on. So therefore, this workshop is a very important thing. Then we have to look at the energy sustainability. As I mentioned, that the present energy scenario is based on fossil fuels, and the utilization of fossil fuels will create another effect. So therefore, we have to come up with the energy sustainability or sustainable energy supply. And if you look at this car, it's what we feel is we deserve for this, and fuel is supplied. As far as India is concerned, we don't have technology mainly. There are very few technologies as far as the mobility is concerned. The fuel which is given to this is again imported. We import 80% of the, almost 80% of the oil, crude oil. So therefore, this technology is not an Indian technology. Its fuel is also not Indian fuel, but we are using it because we offered it. Then we are polluting Indian environment by using it on a poor infrastructure with bad roads and so on. So, but therefore, we feel we may deserve for that. But tomorrow, if there is any problem in energy supply, mainly if the crude oil supply has some problem because it's highly volatile, mainly costing point of view. So the prices of oil is highly volatile, and if you is if there is a political unrest or some other, it's again geopolitical issue also. Then this car, what happens is we have to, like this, if there is no oil from Middle East, then obviously we have to run that vehicle in this fashion. So we may deserve for this, but we may land into this condition. So therefore, energy sustainability is very important. The energy sustainability means if you look at the Earth, it is bluish color, but it's also surrounded by the atmosphere. And as I mentioned, that if the indiscriminate use of fossil fuel may result in imbalance of the atmosphere around it, because you see that about 15 kilometers of the above the Earth is atmosphere, and that atmosphere is getting polluted, and we are literally, because of fossil fuel utilization, it's literally burnt and then imbalanced here. Any imbalanced system is because here the atmosphere is overloaded with pollutants, then that results in imbalance into this. Any overloaded system looks like this. If you put too much pollutants into the atmosphere, you know that we are facing a lot of problems. So therefore, overloading the atmosphere with pollutants may be same as any overloaded system which you have seen on the right side. So therefore, energy sustainability is important because the resources need to be used most effectively with proper this one. Here, if you see that these resources, natural resources, including energy resources, are in this, and if you try to consume like this without technology, they will become extinct after some time. So then this part will become empty. So then future generation will not have any energy sources. So we have to keep them required resources for their use. But therefore, it's important to develop a technology that is an indigenous technology to keep resources for the future generation, and we can use our own share by developing this technology. So that's why the future generation says that there is only one Earth we have to take care of, please. And this technology, that means here, if it is the energy resources, this technology is a renewable energy technology. It's not just tool, it's a renewable energy technology. You have to develop renewable energy technology, more sustainable way to take our own share, keeping these reserves and resources for the future generation. And we have to take our own share. If you look at energy reserves, which I have already mentioned earlier, but if you see the present energy, what's annual energy is this, and there are fossil fuels, coal, with these big blocks are the coal, oil and gas, and this uranium. And if you look at this with the present energy consumption, the rate at which we are consuming is this. With this consumption, these reserves are finite. They may extinct after these many years respectively. Like natural gas in 63, oil in 46 years, and coal is 190 years. But and of course, uranium is not at nuclear is still unknown, and some it's not in commercially used for larger extent. And but if you look at on the top, there is abundant solar radiation which do that. So these are three technologies at demonstration level, and this is a solar concentrating technology at IIT Madras with a three-dimensional dish, and with a higher. There are a lot of challenges here and opportunities in this. If you take this, there are three components, mainly concentrator, receiver, and support structure and tracking. This has to be tracked continuously for that. So therefore, the development of cavity receiver for the high temperature and high pressure application is a challenge, but there are a lot of opportunities in this. So therefore, all CSP technologies, parabolic collector technology, most efficient and high concentration ratio, high operating temperatures. If you look at this, how they are, this is a tracking mechanism, this is a receiver and mirrors, and of course storage tanks are there. And receiver plays a major role in solar thermal energy conversion and estimation of heat losses. The performance study is very important, and various researchers consider isothermal receivers, cavity receiver, adiabatic receivers, and so on. But we have developed a technology which takes care of up to superheated temperature of 500 degrees Celsius and reasonably high pressures. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then applications for steam generation is superheating steam for multi-megawatt power plant, and the saturation steam is for food industry, textile industries, cooking applications. And subcooled system is for air conditioning and paper and pulp industries.
Yeah. Why, sir?
So, but we have to discuss this receiver. Development of receiver is very important, and this receiver for three different conditions have been studied with mainly for heat loss point of view. So these heat losses have been estimated with a different technique and so on. So we can use even artificial neural networks to that and find out what are the different receivers with cavity receivers, mainly cavity, semi-cavity, and modified cavity. And when they are oriented different directions, how the heat losses from the cavity. This has done. This has been done with a numerical method by CFD analysis, and then found that here a modified cavity receiver appears to be more efficient in this case. So we have there are a lot of challenges, and then design and development of fuzzy focal dish is also very important. And this includes we have a different dish technologies, barely sharp dish, fuzzy dish. Because sharp dish is a very accurate dish, but if you go for inaccuracy, it will give a fuzzy focal dish, and because of fuzzy focal nature, there is imperfect optics are involved in that. So that will have a wider range of focal image. Those wider range focal image need to be captured by cavity receiver, and that the estimation of heat losses for these cavity receivers are very important, and the heat losses from these receivers dependent on the geometry, orientation, temperature, wind speed, and direction. So therefore, we have come up with a comprehensive model in order to estimate all the heat losses from different orientations, different temperature ranges, and of course one wind speeds. And this is the Nusselt number correlation for convection. So you can see that. If we have this parabolic dish, but we have to analyze for a problem. We have to analyze not only single collector, but we have to analyze multiple collectors. But if as a field, we have done a comprehensive field analysis, solar field analysis from latitude 8 degrees north to 35 degrees. This covers entire country. And then we have come up with a field study and made an atlas for a power generation here. And if you can see here, wherever the green locations are there, they are commercially viable with the present technology, and blue colors are conditionally viable. Red is not viable based on this technology for the given range of operating conditions. And as I mentioned that the different correlations have been developed for different conditions, and with mainly both convection and radiation here. And these are extensive heat transfer analysis, and the total Nusselt number correlation for different temperature, the D by D ratio, and other parameters with insulation thickness and other things have been studied here. And then we have also used the artificial neural network in order to come up with these heat transfer coefficients, and they are also seem to be better as compared to CFD analysis also, because the CFD requires a lot of space, code, and other things. So we can use statistical methods to find out how this is effective.
Yeah, came sir. Heat transfer and fluid flow studies.
So here, heat transfer fluid flows and helical spherical modified cavity looks like this. You can find out temperature and all these. There are a lot of challenges here, grid generation here, boundary conditions, and so on. And we have come up with the average Nusselt number, and for different sizes of this one and different boundary conditions. And if you look at for this heat transfer and fluid flow studies in helical coil for a modified is there's an entry here how the flow distribution in the tubes for different sections have been studied, and you can see that this is a liquid and liquid to heated fuel, superheated, and so on. That depends on how this goes like this and comes back out. From here you see that with the different it's a cross section of the cavity receiver, and how the fluid transform into different phases and so on. That is given here. And the next one is parabolic trough collector. You can see that this is a parabolic trough where the concentrated radiation on the lines focus. And if you look at, we have developed a collector which is about 5.77 meters, which can be used for commercial power generation. This is for process heat application. This is for power generation, and this is placed on the 4-story building. There are several issues here, challenges. That's a receiver and absorbing coating and vacuum evacuation, glass to the envelope, glass to metal seal, absorber stability, and all this. These are the major challenges in the development of parabolic trough. If you see for the process heat, you can see that this is a parabolic trough collector, but we need to do optical analysis in the beginning because we have to see that how these optics play a role. And you can see that there are receivers which can handle the two-phase condition, and it can be thermic fluid or water, anything, but we have done comprehensive heat transfer analysis for this, how we generate superheated steam and so on. And I think what I'll do is I'll stop here.
Okay.
And what we do is we'll fix up this, and then maybe I will also cover this plus that in the next
Okay.
because we will I hope by that time we can, if any technical snacks are there, that we can eliminate by that time.
What time? Okay, sir. 12 o'clock, I think so. Second week.
12 o'clock will come up because now it's if you have any questions, 5 minutes, if anybody has some questions, you please ask.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I request the participants to interact with the speaker.
Professor,
good morning.
Yes, please continue.
Sir, how much cost it is for implementing this
Hello?
parabolic? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh,
So for implementation of such parabolic shape antenna, how much cost it will come in capex cost?
Capex cost is that depends on the size, but generally it's about based on the surface area, it's about 10 to 15,000 rupees per square meter. Based on the kilowatts per kilowatt, it will be somewhere about 1.5 to 2 lakhs rupees.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Professor Srinivas, may I ask you something, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Myself, Professor Goyal, I am working as a chemistry professor at State Engineering College, Uttaranchal.
Okay.
As a man of chemistry, I am just asking you that you are using parabolic reflectors. What chemical you are using means as a fluid to transfer the energy.
Okay, what fluid?
Yeah, fluid chemical.
See, these fluids can be different fluids. They can be anything, but generally for heat transfer, the fluid basic character of the fluid is it has to be first cheaper.
Yes.
That's okay. I'm asking the chemical name of the fluid, sir. Actually, there are lots of fluid who are having the capacity to absorb the solar thermal energy.
Yeah, I understood, but
So which one you think is the best one?
No, I agree with you, but I'm trying to answer not only to you, but to other people also. Because
Okay. Please continue, sir.
Based on your question, other student participant may have a different answer, but if I directly tell you the chemical, the others may not understand. So that is why I'm giving as a whole, I'm giving that way some introduction. Okay.
Good one. Please continue.
So, generally it has to be cheaper, but the cheapest fuel will be, cheapest fluid will be air. You can use air as a working fluid. Then if you go next cheapest is water, you can go for water. But then we have to look at the stability. We can go for oil also. They are thermic oil. Thermic oil is the synthetic oil, which is there are different companies which manufacture these thermic oils. They are mainly synthetic oil, which there are mainly 2-3 companies. Dotherm is a company, and Solutia is another company. So this is a VP55. Your chemical point of view, it's a VP55, VP1. You can check it in internet. These so that composition. It's a synthetic oil, and oils are used in process industry also. But we can also use even liquid metals like sodium and potassium and so on. And salts also, sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, salts can also be used for as a working fluid. Because sometimes we may need to store this energy, so therefore the molten salts are very important for energy storage.
Yes, chili saltpeter. I'm just saying that thing. The chili saltpeter may be used for this purpose.
Yeah, which one?
Chili saltpeter, potassium nitrate.
Correct. So even the nitrites and chlorides of these, there's a wide ranges of
Yeah. I'm just asking that which one is the best for the this parabolic reflectors.
which one is best means that depends on 2-3 aspects. So there cannot be a single answer for that. But what happens is what temperature you operate is important.
Yes.
So
That is.
based
So
on
what temperature you can go, sir? Chili saltpeter may go up to 600 degrees centigrade.
correct. Okay. That hybrid salts also there. We can go even beyond that.
Definitely. Saline water also being used.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more? If there's no more questions, I'll stop here. Maybe we'll take up in 12 o'clock class. Okay?
Okay, sir.
In fact, I have
Okay,
to
sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have to attend another meeting. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll meet again.
Well, within the time frame, but you can bear with me. So we were discussing the opportunities, challenges in concentrating power plants. So we had discussed. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And you can see also presentation. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we have discussed the challenges and opportunities in concentrating power. In the previous case, I showed you different types of concentrators and mainly parabolic dish concentrator, and this is a linear parabolic trough collector where it's made it parabolic, but in the other side is a line. In the previous case, it was a 3-dimensional. This is a two-dimensional parabolic, and all the reflected rays come onto this receiver, and where it's heated up and working fluid sent one side, and they'll get the steam the other side. And based on that, we have come up with a different generation parabolic dishes and troughs. This is a power plant which is installed in our lab with process heat and power generation. And there are several challenges we discussed, I think, in the previous, mainly receiver, absorber, vacuum, and evacuation, and glass to metal seals, absorbability, stability. All these are the major challenges, and but some we have to fix these challenges. By therefore, there's a lot of potential for opportunities also developing in these. One. So design and development of a line focus PTC receiver for process heat and power generation application. You can see that there are two parabolic trough collectors, connected them in a series, and we need to do optical analysis because this, as I mentioned, there are three components important. One is this mirror parabolic concentrator, and the receiver, whether it's a line focus or cavity receiver, and the other one is a support structure, because huge support structure is required, and a tracking system because we have to track it continuously. And moreover, these systems are kept under open door environment, open conditions. So they have to withstand these wind loads and extreme dust and other conditions also. So here it's a two-phase system. Therefore, the receiver is also very important, and optical analysis is important. Based on this, we have come up with an optical analysis and found different heat transfer coefficients as well as heat transfer rates for different working fluids, and then we evaluate the performance of that under different conditions. The another one is the cavity receivers for LFR, linear fresnel reflector, because the difference here is a curved mirror, but here flat mirrors are there. There are flat mirrors. You can see the different flat mirrors. They are tracked independently to focus onto the receiver here on the top, which is about 12 meters tall here, and the radiation focused onto this, and again one side you send the water, the other side you will get liquid like this. Here this portion you can see this concentrated light onto this. And if you look at the optical analysis, the different mirrors, they are focusing the concentrated solar radiation on this, and the receiver is a cavity, open cavity with a trapezoidal conditions. Hello?
Sir, continue.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So then you can see that this will have several key classes involved in this, whether it's a conduction, convection, and so on. That is the problem, and we can find out the key classes in these receivers and find out the different aperture angle, and aspect ratio, and so on. And we can. This is what one system we installed in a school, Pathshala, which is 70 kilometers from Chennai in Kanchipuram district, with energy storage. Here these are energy storage. Anyhow, I'll discuss energy storage later in my talk. This is the one. It can produce a cogeneration, and I think Dr. Srinivas is going to give a polygeneration aspect. So this is a cogeneration, trigeneration aspects we have explored in this. Cogeneration means both heat and power, and the polygeneration means heat, power, water, and air conditioning. In fact, we produce water and use for process heat in kitchen, as well as this is a school, so as well as air conditioning things aspects. So it produces about 50 kilowatt with 350 to 400 degrees Celsius, and now we have gone up 500 degrees Celsius. So you can see how the flux distribution. You can see the receiver, how the receiver looks like, and how these a lot of optical and thermodynamic and heat transfer studies have been carried out, and of course they are available in open literature. You can see some of my papers if you are really interested in this. Again, we have to do heat transfer analysis with the computational three-dimensional heat transfer. The computational domain is this, and there are a lot of challenges here, how to get the flux distribution and so on. So then we have to see that we have to take lengthwise, because the wind flows from one end to the other. There are different types of winds, whether the wind comes onto the receiver or away from the receiver, or from the side or bottom, top, or anything. We call it head-on wind, side-on wind, and back-on wind, and all this. So these are winds that need to be considered, and we have to find out how the stratification of temperature within the cavity receiver we need to find out and estimate in order to design the receivers. So you can see these are some of the aspects of the receivers with the different the diameter of this tube to the width of the aperture is important. So because if you go for higher and higher, then there will be higher losses also. Then if you have lower d by w, then you will have other problems like aperture, and other problems will happen. So this is we fixed about dw by d by w is about 0.17 as for that, and then wind effects have been considered. If wind is flowing in this direction, how the flux distribution go in this. See wind initially there's no wind, it looks like this. Wind is 2 meters, there is some disturbance. 4 meters is this, but it comes from this direction. So you can see 10 meters, most of the heat is taken away by the wind here. The temperature distribution, and you can see how with this temperature lines, streamlines of these, we can see in this for different theta and so on. And another concentrator is called three-dimensional non-imaging elliptical and hyperbolic concentrator system. This looks like this because it's a new type of concentrator where aperture is elliptical and the surface is hyperbolic, and then there is again surface cavity receivers here. Then three-dimensional analysis has been carried out. This cavity receiver, inverted cavity receiver, looks like this. The pipe, we send heat water fluid from one end, and we get hot fluid from the other end. And this is a non-imaging. Non-imaging means this is not tracking. It doesn't track, but it will capture large amount of solar energy for a wider range of aperture angles and so on, and acceptance angles. Then you can see that again we need to study heat transfer from this. See, if you look at this, its front view is like this, side view is like this, and the receiver is placed at the bottom of this here. This is a trapezoidal inverted trapezoidal this thing for surface properties, we will find heat transfer from both, and then we will take a computational domain here, CFD analysis, and then you can see that how the flow within the concentrator as well as the receiver. So you can see that how the fluid flow and heat loss from these. There is these numbers I am not going to in detail, depending upon the emissivity and all this. It has been found, and with the different incident angles, how the total heat losses are involved, and it has been, these losses have been estimated with this. And there is also temperature with along the concentrator, with the length how it varies. These are the different studies for different theta angles. If you look at experimentally, they look like this. You can see we have developed two elliptical, and this is the receiver. You can see here helical receiver and placed at the bottom, and they are faced this one, so they are coupled here, and these are some of the characteristics. The another thermal system is this desalination system, where solar energy is converted into potable water. Solar energy used to convert potable water from seawater. So this is seawater desalination, where it's a multi-stage desalination system, where it is added heat into this, and then we can get better yields. It will be about 15 to 25 kg per meter square per day, with a 40 to 60% efficiency. It can handle this. We have estimated yield at different stages from like this, and then we use different fluids. That means different feedstocks like saline water, brackish water, fresh water, and brine. Because this system not only be used for generating potable water, but also can be used for treatment of wastewater as well. And these are our dishes. With this is I think I told you that we have developed 6th generation dishes. This is about the 3rd generation dish. You have shown in the beginning is a 2nd generation, and this is a parabolic trough, and you can see that linear Fresnel reflector, how steam is produced from such a big massive reflector here, and this steam is expanded in turbine. One of our industrial associates have taken this forward, and they installed large scale the concentrating solar power plants. And as I mentioned, that the desalination system can not only be used for wastewater, seawater, but also wastewater. See, a lot of industries pollute the water, and that pollutant can be treated. The pollutants have to be treated before they rejected into the atmosphere. So therefore, we have considered a typical textile effluent plant, where the lot of effluents are rejected into the atmosphere, agricultural land. So how solar energy can be used to treat that? This is in Tirupur in Tamil Nadu. We have installed one such system, and it shown a better potential. So the Tamil Nadu Planning Commission, they wanted to install in different industries, because their treatment is a major challenging, because the cost of textile is going up very substantially, and they become incompetitive in international market, because the Bangladeshi textile is competing with them. So that's the problem. And now based on that, because zero discharge toilets also we have developed and installed in our hostel. This is a Krishna hostel in IIT, and it covers both desalination, drying, and of course these panels are used to pump this. So bottom there is a separator. It's a hermetically sealed. There's a zero discharge waste toilet. That means neither liquid discharge nor solid discharge. Everything is controlled. We have transferred the technology to one Mumbai-based company. They are planning to implement. They have already installed one or two, but they may implement elsewhere also. Then this solar energy for mobility. Mobility means this auto. We have developed such a mobility system. One of our students worked on this. Solar panels integrated with this thing. And another thing is the integrated renewable energy system. This is called standalone integrated renewable energy. IRS is integrated renewable energy system. So you can combine not only solar energy, but also you can combine with biomass with a biogas digester. This is a system which we installed in Shantiniketan. Shantiniketan is a Vishwabharati University, that is Rabindranath Tagore's place in West Bengal. This is working. This power supplies energy to a tribal village backside this 24 hours with the biomass as well as the solar. You see solar panels on the top, and if you look at inside, this looks like this. The biogas is fed to the generator, gas biogas generator. It produces electricity. Electricity is connected here. Some battery storage, and then of course solar panels produce electricity. They are also stored, and combined integrated energy we supply to the village. So this is similar to that. If some grid is there, we can also connect to the grid. In some locations, grids are there, so we have developed a control system with a grid. And you can see that the auto which I have shown, it's also compared with conventional autos, and it proved to be better for economics point of view and environment point of view. So with a reasonably good payback period and with the less emissions and so on. So with this, you have seen that several solar thermal energy conversion technologies and of course associated technology, solar energy technologies that are developed at IIT Madras. With this, I'll close the first talk, which is based on challenges and opportunities in solar energy conversion, where optimization of the energy system for sustainable development by analytical, numerical, and statistical tools are used. Many statistical tools are mainly neural networks, and numerical is a CFD. Analytical is a more of a first line analysis and so on. And optimization of concentrating collector system is very important for a prediction of heat transfer characteristics, design of an efficient receiver, or viable solar energy systems for both process heat and, because there is a lot of potential for process heat, mainly textile industries, dairy industries, and of course tanneries and water production and so on. So our approach is a 4DC approach: the design, development, demonstration, deployment through commercialization. Because some of our technologies have been taken to the market by our industrial associates, and they have commercialized. And the backside, this is my this is a third generation dish, fourth generation dish. There's another fifth generation dish is also there, some company. So I'm unable to show some of those because there are a lot of IPs are involved, and we have also filed patents on that. So therefore, it's because we cannot give to the public some of those. So I have not shown the next generation dishes here. So with this, I thank the organizers as well as the participants for my first talk. If you have any questions, you please. You know that I am from IIT Madras. And IIT Madras is a very beautiful campus with almost 700 acres campus, and with a lot of animals like this, and for 500 deers and monkeys and so many other animals. Is a very sustainable environment. We are happy that way. And this person is eagerly looking at you for some questions quickly, and otherwise we'll start the next talk.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving light on challenges and opportunities in solar thermal energy. You shared the computational results and the experimental results with case studies. And also, thanks for sharing some innovative design in the shape of elliptical and hyperbolic shapes. Thank you. Now I request the participants if any questions on this topic, challenges and opportunities of solar thermal energy. Dear participants.
Hello sir, good afternoon sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, how the concentrated photovoltaic is different from photovoltaic?
So you know that photovoltaics panel, photovoltaic.
Yes.
The photovoltaic panel, what is the efficiency of that? Do you have any idea? The efficiency is
very less.
Very less, about 10 to 20% maximum. Okay. So what happens is efficiency, because if you see photovoltaic, if you assume that 20% efficiency, that means the solar energy which is falling on that panel, only 20% is converted into electrical energy. So that means remaining 80% is lost. Remaining 80% is lost into the environment. So then there is a lot of potential for improving that. So what we do is generally the solar cell efficiency increases with the solar radiation, because the solar radiation is whatever is available in the nature is highly diluted. So therefore, with that we cannot improve the efficiency substantially, because the bandwidth or the spectrum band is very narrow. But then if you increase the solar radiation, the panel efficiency will improve. So how we have to increase solar radiation is we have to concentrate solar radiation. If you concentrate solar radiation, instead of falling normal radiation onto panel, if you concentrate and allow the solar radiation to fall on the PV panel, it will give a better efficiency. Better efficiency means instead of 20%, it may give 30% or 40%. But what happens is it gives better efficiency, but simultaneously some part of the heat will creates higher temperature of the cell. So this temperature of the cell, if the cell temperature increases, the efficiency decreases, again drops. So it's a contradicting. See, if you increase the solar radiation, cell efficiency will go up, but simultaneously temperature will also go up. When the temperature goes up, again efficiency drops. So it's like a loop kind of thing. So how do we avoid this loop? The loop can be avoided by a method by which you can remove the heat from the panel. What you do is you concentrate solar radiation one side, but simultaneously you remove heat. Then concentrating solar radiation onto PV cell is called concentrated photovoltaic. Then simultaneously we have to remove heat from the cell. Either it could be passive heat rejection or active heat recovery. So passive heat rejection means when you use heat sinks and reject into the environment, or we can circulate some working fluid like water and remove the heat and use that heat. That's called cogeneration cycle, cogeneration aspect. So this I hope you understood the concentrated PV. So the difference between PV and concentrated PV is where concentrators are used a higher efficiency, for higher efficiency, whereas PV will have a normal PV which loses heat to surface to the environment, so that the efficiency is low.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I have one small doubt on solar thermal challenge.
Please go ahead.
On solar thermal power generation, as per thermodynamics, the efficiency of the power plant is increasing with rise in the source temperature. But the solar collector, the efficiency, conversion efficiency is decreasing with increasing the temperature because of the more heat transfer losses. For this problem, is there any solution like making optimum system or etc.?
Making optimal.
Yeah. How to address this problem? This is one of the challenge actually solar thermal power plant is facing.
Correct. See, what I mean to say here is main challenge now. The main challenge is when you increase the temperature, heat losses will also go up.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you concentrate a very high concentration ratios, obviously the temperature will go up. When the temperature goes up, it tend to lose more heat to the atmosphere also.
Yeah.
So therefore, the main problem is how do we avoid this heat losses. Okay.
Yes.
So if you look at, you can see my slide.
Yes.
Can you see? You can see.
Yeah.
So
last slide is correct.
now